We welcome in NFL and CBS analyst Charles Davis to help us break down this matchup. Let's not sugarcoat it, Charles. The Bucs have not looked very good. They went from being a favorite to win the conference to losing 4 of their last 5 games. Tom Brady leads the NFC in passing yards, yet he's only thrown 8 touchdowns. The good news is Brady is clutch when it comes to being a home underdog. He is 9-3 straight up. How does Brady get this offense clicking again?
Katie, I think it's bigger than Tom Brady and the offense getting clicking. I think it's team-wide. And this feels to me, watching them over these last few weeks, they look like a team that needs to get their fire back. And I'm not saying that they're not out there competing, because that's not true. They are competing. But what I'm saying is, right now, they look a little bit weary. And to me, it all goes with their offseason. It all goes with Tom Brady, retiring, coming back, Tom Brady leaving during camp. And then what that means is all of those things are legit. But guess who has to answer the questions about them? Day in and day out. The guys who are on the team, the guys in the locker room, people like yourself, like me, going into their camp every day. So Tom's not here. How do you feel about that? Hey, Tom's back. How do you feel about that? It all goes into one big pot, Katie. And this pot right now is not getting stirred by the quarterback TB12, because right now he's got a lot of things going on himself that he's trying to get focused on. I think this team is on its way towards getting better. I think all this is going to be behind them sooner rather than later. But to this point, it's been a difficult slog for them. So we've got to see them get it all back going. Yeah, the offensive line's been a bit of a mess. But ask the New York Jets about their offensive line shuffle. And yet they are sitting right now at 5-2 and feeling pretty good about themselves. So it's not just that. I think it's a whole structure and everything going on around it. We can all look for different reasons. But bottom line is they've got to get some stuff behind them that's off the field so they can totally focus on the field and get moving that way.
Yeah, Tom Brady probably having the most personal issues we've seen him have in maybe his entire career. So hopefully they straighten that out. Let's talk about the Ravens here. They barely beat the Browns and have yet to win 2 in a row this season. They might get that this week as Tampa Bay can't seem to stop the run and the Bucs secondary is riddled with injuries. Lamar Jackson is the quintessential dual threat quarterback. Where will he look to exploit this not so scary Bucs defense?
Well, J.K. Dobbins is out. You mentioned the running game and their ability to use that and the struggles Tampa's had against that, which is really a surprise because we always talk about 2-gap defensive linemen who can handle 2 gaps and cover. Vita Vea is like a 3 or 4 gapper. So it's a surprise to me that people can run it as well as they have against Tampa. Gus Edwards is coming back, et cetera, et cetera. Here's what I think. Mark Andrews is the tight end, but he's really wide receiver 1 for Lamar Jackson. And in doubt, he finds number 89, and number 89 finds ways to get open for him. He knows how to run his routes, yet also has some freedom within the routes to make sure he's in the sight line of number 8. And that's where he's going to go with the football. Rashad Bateman, their number 1 pick from last year, had been coming along, but he's been hurt and has missed a number of games and isn't likely to play in this one on Thursday night. So does Devin Duvernay, who's increased as a receiver and not just a kick returner, can he continue to eat up more of those catches and be more of a frontline guy? That's a big question mark for them. The rest of the receiving core, I don't think anyone absolutely scares a defense. So again, it's Mark Andrews, it's Lamar Jackson finding him. If he doesn't find him, can he break out of there and use his legs and scramble and do that? Where's the consistency in throwing the football? The last part of it, Katie, the fourth quarter for the Baltimore Ravens. We all know they have had double-digit leads in every game this year. Every other team that has been double-digit leads in the Super Bowl era has been 7-0. This team is 4-3. So that's a major surprise. Why? They're outscored in the fourth quarter by 46 points. They're minus 46, fourth worst in the NFL. That's got to change, and that is unusual because when you play like a Raven, you tend to close games out, and they haven't done that. Maybe tonight, maybe Thursday night will be the night that gets done.
Yeah, now John Harbaugh taking a lot of heat for those fourth quarter meltdowns. Time for your pick, Charles. Who wins on Thursday night?
Well, as I said before, I really do think that Tampa Bay is going to elevate. I don't think it's quite as dramatic as the Super Bowl year when we looked and saw Tom Brady in Chicago on a Thursday night, not knowing that the fourth down had been played and thought he had another down, and they looked confused. Remember, they were 7-5, Katie, but they elevated and took off and went on their Super Bowl run. So we know Tampa is capable of that. It is going to happen. I predicted weeks ago the second half of the year would be better for Tampa. They would find their footing as they really realized what was going on. But this Baltimore team, They put behind them the losses at home. They had a streak at home that was unusual. Yes, they're 4-3. Yes, they've had their troubles in the fourth quarter. But I do think a couple of weeks ago when they found a way to beat Cincinnati at home late in a comeback and kicked the field goal with Justin Tucker, they carried that over, took out Cleveland. I think they're starting to get some momentum now as well. And despite the fact Rashad Bateman's not there and Mark Andrews is tight end one and wide receiver one rolled into one, I think that Lamar Jackson and this crew gets it done at home on Thursday night. In Tampa Bay, they'll be better, but I don't think it starts this week.
All right, Charles, always a pleasure, and we look forward to seeing you this weekend on the Patriots and Jets broadcast on CBS. Let's take a look at where the dollars are in this matchup. 63% of bets are on Tampa Bay, interestingly enough, 37 for the Baltimore Ravens. And the tickets, that was money. The tickets, 73% is on Baltimore. So the public is siding with Baltimore. However, big money is siding with Tampa Bay. Welcome back on Sportsline. We now bring in our sports betting analysts, Emory Hunt and Mike McClure, to help us find the most value on the TNF board. Gentlemen, this is an interesting game when you look at the spread. The Bucs were favored by 3 last week. However, following a terrible showing against Carolina, that line has jumped the fence and now sits at Ravens -1. Mike, is this an overreaction?
Oh, yeah, it's definitely an overreaction here, Katie. That look-ahead line -3. It's starting to get bet down in the favor of the Bucs. Makes a lot of sense here. They played 2 consecutive road games. Now they get the short week back home in a comfortable environment. This number is definitely inflated. I love the Bucs in this spot. The Ravens also have a key injury that just popped up today. It's not really an injury, it's an illness. Defensive end Calais Campbell has been ruled out. This is not good for the Ravens defense that rates 29th in EPA per play defensively, and they generate very little pass rush. This helps the Bucs offensive line that has been vulnerable. I think it's going to give Tom Brady more than enough time to pick apart this Ravens secondary. Love the Bucs here on Thursday night.
Well, you talk about Calais Campbell, Mike, not being there, and that's a huge blow. This defense was terrible anyway. So it's almost like, it doesn't even matter. But to your point, this line jumping like this, I think the Ravens love this type of game. Lamar Jackson is a spotlight guy, and we know how much, honor and respect he has for Tom Brady and how much he loves to show up those guys when they go head to head. Now, he'll be going against this Bucs defense that isn't as tight-knit as they're coming into the season as they were. But also keep an eye out for Isaiah Likely, the tight end that they drafted out of Coastal Carolina. I think he's primed for a big game. I'm going with the Ravens here. I like them. I saw it at +1 earlier today. Like you said, it swung back over to -1 Ravens. I'm taking the Ravens straight up on the money line. Any one of those spreads work for me.
All right, guys, on opposite sides to start things out. Let's move on to the prop market. Emory, what is a player prop that you are firing on for the Ravens?
Well, I just kind of laid it out there, kind of leading you guys into my prop for Baltimore. Lamar Jackson going over 1.5 touchdown passes. Again, this is the guy that tends to show up on spotlight games and spotlight moments. And what better way to do it on Thursday Night Football against Tom Brady, against a beat-up Bucs defense? I think he goes over that number and throws 2, maybe even 3 touchdown passes.
For me, I'm going to go to Mark Andrews here. I think this is an excellent bounce back spot. Over 58.5 receiving yards. Look, Bateman not going to be there. I think this is a great spot, though. The Tampa Bay defense is a pass funnel, especially to the tight end position here. It's Lamar's most comfortable weapon. I'm expecting a competitive game where we're talking neutral to trailing game script on the Baltimore side. Look for Mark Andrews to be peppered with targets again and say thank you on a line that would normally be 64.5, 66.5 on game day. Let's go Mark Andrews over 58.5 receiving yards.
I love that prop. Now let's move on to the Bucs, who have been decimated with injuries. Mike, give us a player prop worth a look on Tampa Bay.
We got to keep talking about tight ends here. It's going to be Cade Otton over 29.5 receiving yards for the Tampa Bay Bucs. Look, I have talked about the Ravens defense and how Tom Brady should have more than enough time to pass the football here. Otton has really excelled in the role so far. Games of 29, 43, 23, and 64 yards. Some of those in games when they really struggled to move the football. I don't expect them to have issues moving the football in this game. This is one of those lines where I think we're cashing this ticket by halftime here. Give me Otton over 29.5.
It's almost like we were watching the same Ravens game each and every week. So with that being the backdrop, expect Baltimore to build up this big lead and for the Bucs to come storming back in the ball game, which means Mike Evans going over 67.5 yards receiving. I'm pretty sure he can't wait to get out there. How ugly of a drop he had last weekend against the Carolina Panthers. Ravens secondary tends to give up the big play down the field. I think that's prime for him to get at least 2 to 3 chunk plays in the passing game, especially if we're watching these Ravens games. We're seeing that they're going to be up by 10, get into the fourth quarter, and we're going to be in for a treat on the back end of this football game. So I see him going over that receiving number.
Sharp stuff, guys. I might be crazy, but I'm looking to fade Tom Brady under his passing touchdowns. He's only thrown for 2 passing touchdowns once this season, but I'm still kind of percolating on that one. Thank you guys for your time. Let's go ahead and recap those picks. The men are on opposite sides of the game. Mike taking the Bucs, while Emory is locked in on the Ravens. Emory also liking Lamar Jackson to throw at least 2 passing touchdowns. For his Ravens player prop, Mike grabbing Cabe Otten over 29.5 receiving yards for the Bucs.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.